person or that situation did not push you out of that time zone, would you be where you are today?
Not at all.
Not at all. Would you be half the character you are today?
Maybe not.
Would you have the great souls around you, the capacity of the team, how much it's been built today? Because comfort means small.
I already said it. I mean, I think that rewrote my destiny. Please.
It rewrote your destiny. So God, everything God does is in love, because it is for me, therefore it is to support me, it's therefore to expand my consciousness, therefore it's supposed to make me a better person, a kinder person, a more compassionate person, a more knowing person. If it's all those things, then that individual who I have an issue, that I'm having this physical problem with, that I feel so terrible, then if I were to believe that they're also from the same place.
Think about every species around us, and as you were mentioning earlier that we're all from the same place. Yes, not just human beings, all these species are from the same place. They all have this central nervous system. They all deserve our love, compassion, and certainly forgiveness as well.
Understand that these relationships have been chosen on a soul level, and you could even say divinely chosen. If it's not chosen on a personality level, we assume it's by divine right. And
if I'm vindictive, I'm thinking my energy is being directed towards that. How can I be a pleasant person? There is no way I'll be vibrating pleasantness, cool, calm. No, because I am directing my energy to be vindictive.
hello and welcome to Food for Thought. I'm Ramona Singh, and it's always such a pleasure to spend this time with you. Today's topic is about something very important that we seek from others and even from God, yet it's harder for us to sometimes give it to others, and it's much harder to give it to ourselves. That topic is forgiveness, and why is it important? Joining me for this conversation is the group editor of Y Media, Yudhvir Jaswal. Hello and welcome.
Thank you so much, Ramana ji. A very warm welcome to all our viewers today. And yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a very important topic, forgiveness. And when we talk about forgiveness, forgiveness is not only for others, it's for us as well. And if you'd ask me, few steps from where we'll begin our awakening, our spiritual journey, I think in any awakening of any soul or any spiritual journey, forgiveness is definitely at the root. So forgiveness is very, very important for me. And I'm very inspired by many people who have made, forgiveness as part of their lives. And as I was mentioning earlier as well, forgiveness is not for others, it's for us primarily. I'll quote here Buddhaji, which I've used on an earlier show as well. And I love that quote with Buddhaji. As always said, I've listened it many, many times over and over again. Who is worthy of your forgiveness the most? So Buddhaji says, it's you. Yes, forgive yourself first. If there is anything that you feel that yes, guilty about, forgive yourself first, and of course forgiveness for others as well. But what is forgiveness? How do we do it? Let's talk about that.
Yes, it's a great topic because I think forgiveness goes very much hand in hand with love. And if you want to create more love in your life in terms of feeling it more for self, for others, for just even the unknown, I think it really comes down to being able to release a lot of things that we hold within ourselves, and that has definitely to do with forgiveness. And it's about becoming aware of perhaps the things we're carrying. So let's go back to, I'm going to go back to the inception, like when you're born. And so I have to give, a nice disclaimer. My perspective is all coming from the work that I do as a clinical hypnotist that does past life regression and seeing, the soul's journey. And when someone comes to me, and also many times I've gone through this process where, taking a look at the current soul, the journey right now, but also where did it start? What was the backstory? The individuals in my life, such as, parents, loved ones, family, colleagues, all of that. What are my karmic ties? What am I to learn here? So this is the perspective I'm coming from today when it comes to forgiveness. And so if I can go back to, when you're born, you're just this perfect human being, this baby that comes whole. And this baby has a soul, and that soul has a life plan. It has a plan to what it's going to do here. So, I'm going to use myself as an example. I was born, as a soul, I chose my parents, I chose my siblings, I even chose that I'm going to be the second child, I chose the country I was born in, I chose my gender, I chose all of that stuff. And on a personality level, that's being formed as Ramona. Then I have a lot of free will in terms of what I do in my life. But as Ramona, I was taught, what the social norms are in the household, how do you behave, what are manners, how to talk, how to walk, all those things. So we take a lot of that learning from our parents and from our community and from our identity and religion and culture. And then, you add school, and then you add all the things you take from TV. And so there's that programming that comes into place. And through that, the ego is formed, right? The ego is the identity. And perhaps, when you go through your teenagehood, you're also discovering, what is that ego? Who am I? Where do I belong? And it even comes down to, like, who do I hang out with at school? What sports do I play? What are my grades? That's all building that ego identity of the personality. The soul is something much greater than that. The soul is not created nor destroyed, so it's something that continues on its own journey. Yet Ramona's personality is here for a limited amount of time, unknown when, but that is being formed. So perhaps that based on my learnings, I would have an ego that maybe would get hurt about certain things, and maybe would then maybe have a grudge or get upset. Well, first it starts with being offended, then being upset, and then keeping that being upset for too long turns into a grudge, perhaps. And that's all based on the expectations Ramona has in life. Like, how should someone talk to Ramona? How should someone greet Ramona? What does Ramona deserve? These are some of the things that we subconsciously take as a programming. And it's really important to be conscious of this, right? To be conscious of, like, what do I expect? Are my expectations, like, are they something that I should be mindful of and reel them into something that's a little bit more realistic that would allow me to have a better enjoyment of life and for others? Because what you can see is, if I'm someone who gets offended fast because my expectations are greater, or perhaps I have insecurities that have been developed throughout my childhood and maybe early adulthood or at some point in my life. And if I keep that going, then, then it's very easy for me to be able to have reasons that would perhaps, trigger me, get me to have an emotion that would be a little bit more upset, and then would create some sort of animosity towards a situation, like an event or a person or people or ideas or cultural groups or religious groups, you name it. They could be in many different things. So the reason I started from that perspective is just to be able to be mindful of, like, what are some of the things that we are picking up that we need to be mindful of, that that require the forgiveness. And perhaps when we shift those things about, like, let's just say I realize my expectations are so high that I expect people to talk to me a certain way or greet me a certain way, or I command a level of respect or autonomy or importance, whatever the case is. I'm just giving examples. Then I realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm offended like 10 times a day, every day. Maybe the problem isn't with everyone else. Maybe the problem is what I'm putting as a burden on other people, right? And then there's that level of becoming aware, like, well, Ramona, why do you need so much self-assurance from other people? Like, it's really having these really good conversations with yourself and tapping into, like, well, why do I expect that? What is it that is missing that I think I should get from others or from situations? Or if I had the expectation that life should just be beautiful and give me everything I want, and that I should manifest everything my heart desires, the way I want it, how I want it, when I want it. If that was my expectation in life, how hard would life be for me? And then what does it take to then forgive those things, or even forgive myself for setting myself up like that, right? So I wanted to start with, like, the very bare minimum, like the basic stuff that we have to cover, because this is the stuff that accumulate over time, And then when it accumulates over time, then it turns into big things. And then when it comes to, well, release and forgive, it becomes a little bit harder. And if it becomes something that we've done maybe for decades, then you kind of have to chip at it a little bit at a time. If you're doing, depends on how much time you invest. Like with anything else, if you're going to develop a skill, if you're going to develop a know-how in something, then it takes time. And I would even say the art of forgiveness could be the same way, because it's not just I consciously think about forgiving, so therefore I forgive. No, there's the heart aspect to it. There's the gut aspect to it. There's a level of emotional forgiveness, psychological forgiveness. There's a level of understanding intellectually, so that's mental. There's the physical forgiveness. There's so many layers of forgiveness that if we just focus on one thing, like just say you're sorry, I'm sorry, and then leave it at that, those are just words. Maybe perhaps there is some forgiveness there, but then the average person is not realizing that there's all these other aspects of forgiveness that affect us, perhaps even on one issue, but it penetrates. What you engage in, consciously or subconsciously, penetrates into your energetic field, right? And like, you've heard of like auras, and like, why do you like to be around certain people? Why do you like to, get to know someone, or you enjoy someone's company? Perhaps they've done a little bit more of work on themselves to let things go, and they're vibrating a little bit higher, which is the map of consciousness that we always refer to from a great book called Power versus Force. And it's this chart has been accumulated by looking at 250,000 people in terms of their emotions, from shame, guilt, fear, and then going to the higher vibrational ones, which are coming from neutrality, then acceptance, then in love, and so forth. There we have it on the screen there, and when you see the number next to those emotions, that is what it's vibrating, measured in hertz, just like how you would plug in something and you'd read the voltage. Well, when it comes to emotions, the measurement is in hertz, and you can see that shame is at 20 hertz, guilt is at 30 hertz. And knowing this is that what we're feeling, if I'm vibrating at fear at 100 hertz, that's what I'm bringing into my life, right? This is what we all talk about when it comes to law of attraction and power of manifestation, right? It's like, where are you sitting on the spectrum? And like, it's not obviously reasonable to sit in one thing throughout all the moments, because that would, be a lot more robotic. We will go up and down that scale, but it's like, how much do you spend time? Where do you spend it? And your level of forgiveness actually determines where you are on that scale most of the time. So it's very mindful. I think for 2 years, I had that chart that you saw on my screenshot, like in my home screen of my phone. Like, what do we look at the most, right? It's your phone, more than your computer and everything else. And it was just there as a reminder. So I would like really penetrate, because, it's not, everything isn't just like, oh, I learned it, so I know it. Like, how do you really embody it, right? Like, we understand the concept of forgiveness, but how do you embody it? And what do you do? And so part of today, we're going to talk about how do you forgive also. But it's more right now to look at, where does the issue really start, where we would even need to forgive? And that's what I wanted to start with.
Yeah, I think you've highlighted some very, very good points here. And as you just mentioned, I'll also give this disclaimer that whatever I'll be talking, these are all my personal experiences. Do I have any professional background, the thing that I'm talking? I'll only share my personal experiences. So forgiveness. First of all, why forgiveness is even important? As you mentioned, I think forgiveness plays a very important role if we are able to forgive others and if we are able to forgive ourselves. Forgiveness plays a very important role in our physical well-being, in our emotional well-being, in our mental well-being, and very importantly in spiritual well-being as well. So if we are able to forgive others and forgive ourselves, all these aspects, our physical health, our emotional health, our mental health, and definitely our spiritual aspect will be much better. And I couldn't agree more when you showed that chart. And if we could see the chart once again, there is one very important thing I want to mention with this chart regarding forgiveness. As much as we look on this chart, we see there is nowhere it's written forgiveness here. But I like to highlight acceptance. If we look at this chart, you see there is acceptance there. Before we get to the position of love, joy, bliss, enlightenment, I think acceptance is there. Unless there isn't acceptance, unless there is not willingness, until and unless there is no neutrality, until and unless there is no forgiveness, I doubt we can start vibrating in those zones of love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. So before we move up there, I think this is very important for us to forgive. And when we talk about forgive, it's not only important to forgive others, but also to forgive ourselves. Now I'll share a story for myself that how I changed. And you spoke about love. Love is very important, but I'll also use 2 or 3 more words when we are talking about forgiveness. One is ego. It's very important. I'll highlight why talking about ego is important and talking about love is important, but talking about compassion is also very important. These are 2 very different things. So how much love and compassion do we have? How much ego do we have? How much resentment do we have? I think we need to start asking all these questions. But before we do that, I have a question. Is forgiveness a feeling or it's a choice? Actually, forgiveness is a choice. Anything surrounded around forgiveness, they could all be feelings. But forgiveness in particular is a choice. How? I'll discuss a few things with me, what happened in my life, and then I'll come back to this again, that why I would say forgiveness is a choice, it's not a feeling. Anything around that is a feeling. Okay, right from the childhood, I want to be first, my ego, number 1. Number 2, how can this person be first? How can this? Okay, this is all resentment. Growing up as a kid, then again, similar things happening in college. I want to be number 1, number first all the time. I'm on the stage during my college, engineering college. I'm the mic, I'm the MC, getting gold medals. Oh, I'm very happy all the time. I thought so, I'm very happy. So this is all ego. I am number 1, I am number 1. And then in college also, yes, I must confess this, the Yudhvir that you're seeing today is very different. Did I get into physical fights? Yes, I did. I was like, okay, if someone has said something to me or done this harm, I was very vindictive. I would quote that yes, this is what I have to do. So what was all that? It was being vindictive, being revengeful, ego, all those things. I was definitely not vibrating in the zones that we just discussed. So it was all about ego, being vindictive. Fast forward that to my professional life. Again, the same thing, whether I was working in media, I wanted to be number 1, create this big empire. It was all about ego. And during that, you said a very good thing. Knowingly or unknowingly, we get vindictive. We get resentful. We want to make sure I'm number 1. How can this person grow? It's all about ego. It's all about being vindictive. So now how did it transform? What has to come? What has to come during this transition? I want to remind everyone here, I was asked this question that how many people are compassionate in this world? How many people? Second question I was asked on a live show very recently that when I talk about, not giving any death penalty, then people say, Yudhvir, how easy it's for you, how convenient of you to talk about not giving any death penalty. But imagine those people who are the victims. So it's very difficult for the victims to really forgive anyone, and nobody would forgive. I said, you know what, first of all, after watching Buddha ji, when you're filled with love, when you're filled with compassion, when your ego starts to melt down, we still have ego, and forgiveness, you said it right. It's not a switch on off button, because I'm saying it's a choice. Not only it's a choice, but it's a continuous process as well. Maybe after working a lot on myself, then suddenly I see, you said it absolutely right. I see that after a few years, maybe a little bit of, that thing comes, the ego comes, the jealousy factor comes. Yes, it does. So when we are in sync with our soul, with love, compassion, peace, bliss, that is the only time we can say there is no ego, there is all about forgiveness. But to attain that, it's a continuous process. We have to keep working on us. It's a choice. Because if someone has hurt me, if someone has done anything wrong to me, it's all upon me. How do I react? So it's a choice. And if we keep on practicing that, if we keep on practicing forgiveness for others and for ourselves, it'll be good for our physical well-being, mental, emotional, and of course, spiritual well-being. It's very important.
Yes, absolutely. So now I'm going to go down to the level of exposure I've had when it comes to the soul's journey. So our basic relationships, mom, dad, siblings, spouse, children, those are our karmic relationships. We have incarnated as individuals with those souls playing a role with a personality, because we have decided on a soul level, there's a soul contract of this is what we're going to learn. In this lifetime, for example, I'm going to learn patience, and, my sister's going to teach me that. I'm going to learn compassion, and my brother's going to teach me that. So there's certain things that come into play. So now some of these relationships can be very difficult, right? Where things will come up. And here's the thing, if we understand that these relationships have been chosen on a soul level, and you could even say divinely chosen. If it's not chosen on a personality level, we assume it's by divine right. And then there must be something here that I must learn, become aware of, because yes, even though I was born as a baby and completely whole, and through my, you always have nature versus nurture, and through my nurturing, I developed my ego, my self-esteem, my perception of the world, my expectations, all of those things, my viewpoints. But then here is the thing, when I realize that the nature of things put into place is for my good, because I have to come to the terms that everything is happening for my good. So bottom line is, we got to start from somewhere, right? We have to start from some perception, and some belief system, right? If your belief system is, don't trust anyone, then we're starting from a very challenging point of view. So here we go. We start from everything is happening for me, not to me. What does that mean? It means everything's happening to make me better, to make me smarter, to make me more knowledgeable, and through those, I become more compassionate. I cannot be compassionate if I have not experienced any level of hardship. Where could I muster up that level of compassion, right? Yeah, compassion, but then there's the degree of compassion. There's degrees in love, compassion, there's degrees in everything. And our capacity for that is based on our expansion of our consciousness, and that comes through experience. So because we're here in this physical body, we're here to just experience. So even the harder experiences, that was an experience. The more delightful experiences, that's also an experience. So you could even say that there is no bad or there's no good, there's just experience. That experience gives us exposure to ourselves, our emotions. It gives us exposure to humanity through the darker sides, what's in the shadow, what we sweep under the rug, that we must understand to really be able to be in the trenches with, to be able to understand it on an impressed level, not a shallow level, which shallow is, I read it, I learn it, that's shallow. I'm talking about real dealing with it where it impacts us on a vibrational level where your cells can really understand it. And that comes with that level of experience. And so if I look at everything that has happened, it's not a good thing or it's not a bad, yes, I had good feelings, and then the bad ones, I had bad feelings, more challenging feelings, but really on the grand scheme of things, Ramona here, in this physical incarnation under the personality of Ramona, is here to experience it. So those things give me a level of understanding that creates compassion, that creates an expanded consciousness, that even creates the content for the show, let alone, right? Like this comes from a level of understanding because you really start blending with these things, right? And not being closed off, right? And protection or in a fear-based thing. So if we start from a perception of everything happens for me means that it's all to support me, it's all to help me experience things, it's all to help me grow as an individual, it's all, and when I do all those things, then my capacity expands to what I can contribute to society. If my capacity is low, then my contribution will be low. Well, yeah, I mean, that's fair to say. Maybe it doesn't feel good to look at it that way, but you know, if I have a very limited scope in terms of what I'm willing to open up to, then my capacity will be a lot more limited. So really, what do you want to show up in this world for? What is your level of contribution? Are we here to just eat, sleep, enjoy, and do things we like, and then we pass? Or are we here to, yeah, you take care of your basic necessities, right? Like you gotta eat, you gotta sleep, you gotta enjoy your life, you gotta do something that's meaningful. And then the greater scheme of like, what am I contributing, right? And your contribution could just be that you're such a pleasant person that shows up in this world, that if you, even when you walk into the convenience store or, you know, to the shopping mall, or when you drop by somewhere, you show up with a smile. That is a good contribution. Very rarely, you know, do you see somebody who's just, like how nice is it when you go to a cashier and you know you're even at the gas station, how are you? How is your day? You come across somebody at the bus station, how are you? How is your day? You know, it just you get into the bus, ask the person, or when you go for a meal, you know, the waiter comes, like just talking about interactions, or how, even if you don't ask, how about a smile, right? So that's a contribution. So I'm not talking about contribution like how much did you donate or did you build something? Like contributions at so many different levels, right? It's also your attitude, right? Like, okay, do great things here, but if you don't have a good attitude doing it, then what is your contribution, right? So that's what I mean. There's not just like the physical realm, there's also the spiritual aspect of things, and that comes with all those other, your like your mental, your psychological, your emotional state, and all of that. So let's go back to the basics. The basics being, okay, if I believe everything's happening for me and not to me, that means my attitude would be different if, for example, something shows up that I don't dislike, that I think interferes with my plans. Then I don't look at it as like, oh, look what happened to me. I won't call up my friend and say, look what happened, look, da-da-da. I'll now think of it like, okay, this is happening for me. So if it's happening for me, which is positive, not to me, which could be negative, for me, then what am I supposed to learn from this opportunity? Okay, so I have a plan, there's an interruption on my plan. Okay, so if it's for me, then it wants me to think about things a little bit better. It wants me to become a little bit more conscious of something. And perhaps maybe it's teaching me patience. Maybe it's also teaching me that right now is not the right time to proceed. Maybe when that thing clears up, then I can proceed. I'm trying to come up with as many examples that are very relatable on what we do on a daily basis. So then you shift that perspective of, okay, I believe everything is in divine timing. I believe everything is for the good. I believe everything is for me. So therefore, maybe perhaps I'm not supposed to proceed on this thing right now. And maybe perhaps I'm supposed to shift my focus on something else. Or perhaps maybe I'm just supposed to wait here and just enjoy the fact that I'm alive, enjoy nature, enjoy what I'm doing, and just take it easy. And maybe it's just, I need to breathe. Whatever the case is. And if you think about it, if you think about some of the most challenging situations that, you know, you could think about that you've experienced, and everyone has experienced their level of challenges, and sometimes when you think in hindsight, well, that challenge wasn't anything compared to the other challenge. Well, the more we're ready to expand our capacity, the more challenges will come for us. And sometimes they come really early in life where, you know, for some people it'll come up as childhood. For some people, it'll be when they're 3 years old. They'll experience very challenging situations, whether it's in family dynamics, whether it's at school, whatever the case is, and they don't have any coping skills. But if we believe everything's happening for us, and we say that to others as well, so there's a shift in perception, then you look at, what did I gain from that challenging experience? How did my personality change? What did it do to my characteristic? Did it make me a kinder person? Did it make me a more loving person? Did it make me a more supportive person? Did it make me a more patient person? Did it make me a calmer person? Did it make me less egoic? Did it make me realize that I'm not perhaps always right? Perhaps maybe I don't know, that only my brain is the accumulation of everything I've learned consciously and subconsciously. And then you really then start looking at, who have I become? And if the challenges, and it's so easy to have the challenges make us a little bit more like frustrated, a little bit more mistrusting, a little bit more fearful, a little bit more all those denser feelings that we saw on that map of consciousness. That's natural. That's something that we all go to immediately, right? But then when you have the expanded consciousness, everything's happening for me, not to me. So it's not against me. To me means it's against me. If it's happening for me, okay, what's the opportunity here? What am I supposed to listen to that's maybe very subtle? Because the challenging thing is not subtle, it's in your face. But the lesson, the meaning is a lot more subtle. And maybe right now, because I'm filled with my emotions, maybe I can't see it right now, but how about I don't react, right? Yeah, allow the emotions. No one's saying, don't feel this way, be happy. No. You're here for experience. Everything's an experience. So go through the experience, right? Go through the experience. It doesn't feel so good, okay? Maybe the experience emotionally lasts you a short period of time, maybe it's a long period of time. That's okay. The longer it lasts, the more it's teaching you something that maybe you haven't figured out yet. Use it as a gauge, right? Use it as, okay, I'm still experiencing this thing. What angle am I supposed to look at it, right? Like, look at it as like problem solving. Like when you work somewhere or in your family home, you look for solutions, right? When something happens, you look for a solution. You look at it in every angle. You look at it, left, right, underneath, on top. You become resourceful. Look at the challenges or look at the things that create a situation for you as an opportunity to be able to have a shift in perspective. And if that emotion lasts a little bit longer, it gives you another more opportunity. Sometimes certain things will last us years, sometimes they'll last us decades. So that's when you realize, okay, because this issue that I have with this individual, perhaps a loved one, and because it's created rules and belief systems and rigidness, and it's made me regress, not expand, because I have just taken the emotions that were not so good and I've had the emotions give me meanings to things. What I'm saying is rise above the emotion. Try not to make commitments because the emotion can be very overwhelming. When something unpleasant happens, the emotion can be very overwhelming. And if we just grasp that emotion and start making rules like, look, can't trust people, people are bad, oh look, they're jealous, like whatever, I'm just giving examples, right? If we make those rules and then we say that's the new me, and then each rule, slap it on like a identity, let's not do that, because then it takes you on a different timeline in life, right? Based on those choices, it will change the trajectory of your life. We're still writing our future. Your future is not defined. You're writing your future currently. And based on your values, based on your belief systems, you're writing all of that. It would mean how many things will come to you and how many things that you can't even see because you're so ingrained in consumed with certain value system that the door is open, you won't even see it. It'll be like a fog, right? So what I'm saying is, and I'm going on many different layers, but I really want to cover these bases before we go into the other stuff. These bases are really important as a foundational understanding of really looking at these things in a different way. And so going back to being very mindful of not attaching our identities, our values, our belief systems based on those emotions. Let the emotion pass, because haven't you felt that something is supercharged? You have a good meal, you have a good night's sleep, the next day, you're not as charged, right? So if you, let's just say you're supercharged at like 0 to 10, I guess it's 1 to 10, not 0 to 10. 1 to 10, it's a 10. But then you have a good meal, like a good meal. Have like things you enjoy, get a good night's sleep. The next day when you wake up, are you still at 10? Like really? And then if you are, then what have you done to amp yourself up? Because you must have injected some fuel. But if you're in a natural state, maybe you're down to like a 7, depending on the intensity of things, right? But don't you notice that then you think about it, then you think about the insult, then you think about your expectations, and then if you're a 7, you'll go back up to 10. So again, it's like, what are you doing to induce, and what are you doing to like reduce, right? Like that's also important, right? Because your frame of thought and how much, and then also be mindful, who are you talking to about this? Are you talking to somebody who also feels it? Because they come, because if you're talking to somebody who has values of everything happens to you, not for you, life is unfair, da 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 da, like if you're talking to somebody like that, guess what? You're gonna just keep adding gasoline to the fire. Call someone else. Talk to someone else who's a lot calmer, right? Talk to someone else who's less, like who's kind of got some of this stuff figured out for themselves, right? Because you want to be there, right? Like when you want to start working out and you want to incorporate that into your lifestyle, are you going to start making plans to go to the gym with the friend who doesn't also go to the gym? Or are you going to start making plans to go to the gym with the friend who goes every day or like knows how to work out and goes 3 times a week? Obviously, you're going to make plans with somebody who goes 3 times a week. So because it's a teamwork effort, you're going to show up. But if you make plans with a friend who also doesn't go to the gym, guess what? When it's time to go to the gym, you both will go to Starbucks, right? So like be mindful of who you're talking to about this, right? Where is your resources coming from, right? Like this is important because we want to change certain things. We don't want to we don't want to add a bonfire. And then the bonfire turns into what we've seen, those horrific cases of, then it just expands and it expands. And you notice when the fire expands so much, it's a lot harder to put it out, right? How much more forgiveness do you have to do then? And we'll get to the topic of forgiveness, but I wanted to cover some of this basis.
Very nicely, you've covered quite a few things, and I'll quickly, borrow a few things that you just mentioned during the journey that I was talking about. And yeah, as much as I was one of those who would always, aspire to be number one. And during that thing, nothing wrong with that. We all want to grow. We all want to be there at the top. But during that journey, somewhere I was fueling my own ego and jealousy, vindictiveness. I'm on the top. Others should be like this. All those things did crop up. So it's around 2009, 10, then that's the time I started realizing this thing that things have to change. Because I think naturally, I feel all of us, our soul is always telling us our soul doesn't need all these things. So imagine, can you really invent something like Albert Einstein? If he was vindictive, could he have invented all those things? No, not at all. So and I always like your map of consciousness. Why? Because I think if we have to really do something good, acceptance, forgiveness, compassion, love, bliss, all this has to be there. If we have to do any positive contribution towards society, as you were just mentioning, if you're entering a grocery store, if I'm vindictive, I'm thinking my energy is being directed towards that. How can I be a pleasant person? There is no way I'll be vibrating pleasantness, cool, calm. No, because I am directing my energy to be vindictive. Fast forward that from 2010, I had started practicing, but I think the turning point was 2013. 2013, yes, I was kicked out of my radio thing, and I would say kicked out of, yes, I was literally kicked out. I had bought 2 properties in that year, and then it was a major financial crunch for me, and I knew who did that to me. And but I don't know, somehow it happened, maybe a few years of practice, somehow it happened that as much as I was offered that, okay, we'll bring you these lawyers, let's do this, you have every right, legally you've been wrong. Then I said, no, I don't want to waste my time in hiring the lawyers and doing all this. So I think I want to focus on the positive side. What can I do now? So I shifted towards, and out of the blue, I called a person, actually my wife Preeti, she requested me, she said, do you know that lady? I said, yeah, I know her, but I'm a bit shy to talk to her. I haven't spoken to her. He said, there's nothing to feel shy. Talk to her. Maybe she has something for you. I called her, and she said, yeah, come over. Let's work together. And I got better. Actually, here was something that was, actually, it was a blessing in disguise. Had I started taking that route, yes, bring the lawyers, we'll do this thing. I was right. It wasn't that. And I must say this, when some people say, forgiving someone, I'm not condoning that. And it doesn't even mean that, yes, I'm okay with what somebody has done to me. I'm not condoning that, and I'm not okay. It's just that for my own better focus, for myself to focus on positive energy, and for my own liberation, for my own well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally, and of course, spiritually as well. I think when I took this path, it was great. Everything started falling in place. I think I was better off in the new radio station, and so many things started happening better for me.
For you, not to you. That's the difference.
Yeah, for me. So that is one thing I realized that, and there was a turning point. It was a clear-cut example. You said that earlier, that yes, and I realized universe has its own plan. And something that already hit my mind, even before things started happening positive. I said, you do remember, universe has its own plan. God has his own plan. God is telling you, you do remember, I have my own plan for you. Now you want to be revengeful, vindictive, do whatever you want. You said a very important thing earlier, and we've discussed it. That's a whole different topic. What is destiny? I think on that day, I wrote my destiny from scratch in 2013, because my destiny would have been very different had I been, unforgiving, if I would have acted upon that. Because almost everyone around me was telling me, you have to act, bring the lawyer, do this. I said, okay, fine. And you're right, the emotions were overwhelming. All those things I'm worrying for. The emotions, because when you were saying this, I could go back in 2013, I could feel all. Emotions were overwhelming. I said, Yudhvir, mera Punjabi pe idda kar denge, what is this? And this is Yudhvir who has fought all these battles, college time, school time. Yudhvir, what are you talking? Are you? And then sometimes we also try to tell our sir, are you scared? Are you fearful? You are brave. Come on, let's do. I said, no. I'm not. This is being courageous. In all the adversity that I'm having financial issues, I've been kicked out of the radio, I'm having all these things. I think this is being brave, this is being courageous. It takes a lot of courage to and there is a difference between, letting go and then forgiving. So I said, let go. Let go, and forgiving means let go. I'm not okay with what you've done to me. I'm not okay with that. I'm not condoning that. But that's okay. My love for you. Okay, let me focus on the main thing. This is a new station. I focused on that, worked very hard because this is my strength, worked very hard. But I had to build it from the scratch because I had worked hard to build a brand, a place, position. That was my afternoon show. I lost a lot of audience, and then I had to move to the morning show. But I said, okay, fine, I'll work very hard. I have to focus on my strengths. And eventually it worked out so better that I said how good it was that I was kicked out of the station. It was good. It was a fantastic thing. Had I not been kicked out, I would have been in my comfort zone. I learned another lesson, that I will not be on just one channel. I'll also have something to back up. And I had always thought to start a 24/7 TV. I said, you know what, sooner than later now. This is another lesson from that thing. Let's not rely on print, digital, and radio. I have to, start focusing more and more towards starting the 24/7 TV channel. So actually it was a blessing in disguise. The only thing is sometimes we do not realize. So that's why I say how important is to forgive. So from that position to being vindictive, I'm brave, I can do this, from that position to this position, the ego starts melting down. And when he met me outside, I said, okay, fine, hello. Eventually they also said, my son's advertising. I said, so fine, I'm happy. People asked me, same person, his son, and you are putting it. I said, I'm okay with that. I'm putting his advertisement, I'm supporting him, he needs all the love. And then I'm okay. Actually, I'm doing myself a favor. I'm doing myself a favor. So from that position on to this position, and then I started listening to Buddhaji, so many other things changed. So from that position, today I think I'm in a position, and for the last few years, I say, when we're talking about, when I read this line, how to forgive. So it changes to forgiveness. How to forgive? Yudhvir, I asked myself, who are you to even forgive? Who are you? Who are you? I mean, am I trying to feed my ego? Someone has done extremely wrong against me and say, okay, forgiveness, here I'm giving blame. No. who am I to forgive anyone? I'm not anybody. I'm seeking, actually on the contrary, I'm seeking forgiveness from God every day. I'm seeking, there are many things that we knowingly or unknowingly do. So I don't want to hold myself on a higher pedestal and feed my ego and tell that I am forgiving you. No, I'm not forgiving anyone. It's like, if anybody has done anything wrong. And sometimes we also say, okay, I have forgiven someone, now God will do the justice. So I have forgiven that person, now God will do the justice. What is the meaning of that justice? This is our own narrative for justice, What is this is our own narrative that we build up for justice. Now God will do the justice. That means we still want God to punish them. I'm not doing anything, but God, you punish that person. And when it comes to me, God, I want forgiveness. So here again, I have built a narrative for the justice, and I want to change my own narrative for the justice. My own narrative for the justice is for the God, that if something wrong has done to me, God, you take care of me. I seek forgiveness. And my narrative for the justice is, I think God should give more love to that person. I have to give more love to that person because that person is in some sort of problem right now. So that is my narrative for forgiveness right now. Yeah.
Do you mind if I use what you talked about, as an example to work through some
Sure.
Concepts? Okay.
Please.
So perfect, right? So you have a radio show,
Right.
and you've built it up. You have advertisers, you have listeners, and it's going great. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get pulled off this radio show,
Right.
and then you're like, well, this was this was a big chunk of revenue that was coming in. What do I do?
Yeah.
So now, if you had the perception, the belief system of everything happens to me, then yes, your course of action would have been to get lawyers. So now, not only have you now lost revenue, but now you're going to take whatever is there and you're going to now go legal route that is going to get you emotionally wrapped up even more, and to feed you about my ego. Why did you stop this? This was mine. You took it away from me, right? Happens to me, right? And then but then what you did was said, no, this is happening for me. For me means this is for an opportunity. This is something that I'm supposed to learn. I'm going to rise above it, even though my emotions are of injustice, of everything else that you felt. Because, we take pride in our work, right? And when we create something and someone comes in just like you make like a child makes a sand castle, and then all of a sudden, the water comes and wipes it away. And maybe they spent hours, and that's how we feel. It taps back into that inner, child of like, that's unfair. I did this, I created this, and it just vanished. So then you took that whole path of, that's when you change the trajectory of your life. Yes, there is different timelines, and you got it right when I said, because I'm always mindful of what degree am I going to talk about things that would be more, acceptable in what we know in society. Because the work I do is just so different than what I've learned growing up, so I'm always trying to pick the right terminologies. But you're right. When I said timelines, I was talking about the destiny that you head towards. We can go through many different timelines. For example, think about the person you married. That's a timeline. If you did not marry that person, that's a different timeline, meaning different destinies that you will live. So you're constantly writing your future. Now, you don't know when your last day here on this earth is, or the last moment that we're here, but everything else we're writing from here onwards. So it's very important to be mindful and very conscious about, like, what am I thinking? Why do I think that? Am I going to act on this, or am I going to refrain from acting on this? Because refraining is also, it sets a different timeline, right? So it set you on a timeline of then saying, exploring other stations. And look at that. It worked out very well for you. And then what it did was it created for you to attract good souls. You say this all the time, you have good souls in your life. Well, if you were on a different timeline where everything happens to me, you would be attracting a different type of personalities who also, because everything is a mirror to us, right? You have 13 universal laws. We did a show, I think it took like 3 episodes to do, but one of the biggest one I always go back to is the law of correspondence. Everything is a mirror to me, right? So everything that I'm seeing in my world showing up, like from the store attendant, to my friends, to my family, to my loved ones, everything, work opportunities, my colleagues. It's really a mirror of what are my belief systems on the inside. If I believe a certain thing, it will manifest. Why? Because it's the universe doing me a favor to say, hey, Ramona, you have to work on this. Because I'm not aware of myself all the time. I'm aware of what music I like. I'm aware of what the latest trend is. I'm aware of what's happening in the news. I'm aware of la la la, right? I'm not aware of myself. So what does the universe do? It gives me opportunities by showing up with certain circumstances, certain things that come up for me to see it. And if now I know everything's happening for me and not to me, I'm not going to get offended. I'm going to say, wait a minute. What are you trying to tell me? What am I seeing right now? Oh, what I'm seeing is a mirror to me. I'm so, it's funny because I'm being very expressive today. I'm aware of that right now. It's good to be aware of yourself. And you catch yourself and you're like, oh, interesting, but I'll carry on because it feels right. So, you look at it and say, oh, that's a mirror. Okay, and then, so let's just say you say something to me, and let's just say I dislike it. I won't now say, because it's not happening to me for me, I won't say, oh, look at Yud Virji, look at that. I'm going to say, oh, this is a mirror to me. What is it about what I just heard that represents a value within me that maybe I don't want to see? Or a belief system that I don't accept, that I didn't even realize it's there. Or no, I know it's there, but I only like it for myself. I don't like it when someone else does it to me. I only like it for myself, right? Like, do as I say, not as I do, right? So that's a good opportunity. So that's the beautiful thing about what the universe does for us. That's the law of correspondence. And now, so if I go in and I start searching, like I go in and swim into the deep ocean of my thoughts, my belief systems, my values, my trigger points, my unresolved issues, my wants, my desire, all of that stuff, then I become a lot more aware, because now I'm not swimming into what's happening on the red carpet, or what's the trending book, or what's something that has nothing to do with me. It has like really nothing to do with me, but everything inside of me has everything to do with me. That's why people meditate. They meditate because they prioritize themselves over all the noise, because they realize that everything that has to do with me is here. It's not out here. It's not. What's out here is just a manifestation of what's in here. So if I want to change what's out here and the level of experience I'm having, because we're here for experiences, and maybe I'm tired of certain experiences. Maybe I want other experiences. Maybe I don't want redundant experiences. It's like having the same meal every day. Imagine you had white rice every day for lunch and dinner. Maybe you want something else. Maybe you want noodles. Maybe you want, maybe you want variety. Maybe you want vegetables, whatever it is that you want. Well, when you're done with a level of experience and if something is redundant and repetitive, you realize, okay, hey, Ramona, can you go and deal with that on the inside? Because that's just a manifestation of what's going on. That's a mirror. So that's why you take the time out and you say, I'm going to prioritize myself. Maybe, no, I won't go to this place because that's busy and that's going to take time away from me. And I kid you not, like, if we want to win at this, like, think of this as like a game. We're like in a game where what you put in is what you get out, and there's levels, timelines, right? Destinies, like, what is that? Levels, right? And if based on that reaction of, do I pursue with a lawsuit or do I go and find a new opportunity? That is a choice, but that changed the trajectory of the rest of what's going to happen. So when you take the time out and you go in here, then you realize what to be able to fine tune. Now, going back to your situation. Now, do you believe that we all come from a creator, God, source, whatever you want to call it? Do you believe we all come from the same place, or do we come from different things?
I think we all come from the same place, and that is what aligns us. And that is precisely the reason, the topic that we're talking today, that is precisely the reason that yes, we should be compassionate, loving, and forgiving. And I also want to quickly add this thing, that I don't want to say this that after 2013, I've always been forgiving. Because on a scale of 1 to 10, you said it right, it cannot be 0. On a scale of 1 to 10, my ego will always oscillate between 1 to 10. It can never be 0. Has my jealousy ever been zero? No. Despite I think of all those things that I'm discussing, can my jealousy be zero? No, I don't think so. My jealousy can be zero. All those things, it will still stay there. But what am I doing most of the time? Most of the time, am I loving, compassionate, and how do I practice that, as you were saying? So I've been practicing more and more forgiveness, but it's a process. It's a healing. I would say, as healing is a continuous process, because very recently I learned this thing very recently. I said earlier I also used to think, what is this? Healing means healing. I thought how you could call me whatever you want to call me, naive, or I don't want to use any other word for myself. But I was thinking, I mean, I talk about so many different things, and I always thought healing is for someone something broken or they're facing a challenge. But I said no, healing is for everyone, and it's a continuous process. And I think being forgiving someone and actually forgiving ourselves, because I already told you, I don't think so. I'm in a position to forgive anyone. No. I'm not at all, because I have so many things on my plate already. I have to forgive myself. And I must tell you this thing. Say, for instance, because I'm in media, so I listen to people, oh, there is a war going on. Fine. So I'll listen to people on both sides of the fences. On one side, people would be vindictive or resentful or emotionally very charged against one side. There is a war going on. It could be in any part of the world. And when I listen to the other side, very similar feelings. But I don't discuss, I just listen to them. But now, what do I do? So when I see both these things, for me, this is for me. I don't want to preach, I don't want to discuss, I don't want to suggest anyone. But since I'm here now, so what do? I'll share my experience. So I say, imagine if here is a war going on, and both Ramonaji and myself, we enter into that field, we are standing over here. So maybe we're writing our destiny. One choice, okay, both of us have discussed that. I think that side is wrong. And this is justice. We have to fight from this side for justice. Maybe we don't even fight, we just, start saying something wrong about them or start feeling something wrong about that. Or maybe we are on that side of the fence. But I think if I am given the choice, I will, take some water, some food, some other medical supplies. And there are so many people who are injured. There are so many people who need that sort of support. So I think my path will be on this side, that this is what I want to do, rather than me, maybe the justice that we're talking, it's their definition. It's their narrative. I don't know what is right or wrong. But most likely, I will be doing this thing. And during this, I have to forgive myself. It's very, very important that many times on certain preconceived notions that we're not able to, this is what I learned from Buddha ji, that we're not able to forgive ourselves. Because what I think today, I go back 1,000 years ago. I mean, imagine if Copernicus and Galileo, they were born today, they would have been treated as God. Because these are the guys who try to explain us, hello, listen, Earth revolves around the sun. Earth rotates on its axis. Sun does not revolve around the earth. So when these people gave us all these things, so I think, but we didn't really realize at that time. So from my perspective, I would say that yes, why forgiveness is equally important for others, but I think forgiveness is very important for us as well. And if you don't mind, can I share a small story?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. Please, yeah.
And I want your opinion. Because many people think it's very difficult to forgive. But I think it's not very difficult to forgive. Here is a young guy, I'll name this person, the guy's name is Cookie Gill. So Cookie Gill, a very bright student. He was studying in Ludhiana. He had already gotten his scholarship approved for states, a very bright career ahead of him, from a very nice family. His father was the former Vice Chancellor of Punjab Agricultural University, very accomplished person. He got many awards. So the person's family is great. This person is very well educated. And suddenly we all know those events that happened in India, the 1984 events. And these events had a certain sort of impression in his mind. To the point that when he read that, okay, who are the people behind, doing all these things, this guy, along with two other fellows, this guy goes to a place, and there was a guy named Lalit Makhan. So this guy, he says, because they were convinced that yes, our community has been wronged by few people, and Lalit Makhan is one of them. So these three guys go at his doorstep and they start shooting this guy, Lalit Makhan. Lalit Makhan's wife, Gitanjali Makhan, she comes and she tries to save. These guys told her, please, please, we just want to shoot him. So, but unfortunately the time was running out and these guys thought, but they shot Lalit Makhan and they also shot Gitanjali. So both these persons, Cookie Gill, one of the guys who shot that. Here I'll bring the story, Avantika Makhan. She's a 6-year-old kid. She's lost both her parents. Growing up, Avantika Makhan would say, when I grow up, I will make sure that I kill those persons who have shot dead my parents. Now we're talking about forgiveness. Do you think, I ask all our audience and I ask you also, do you think Avantika Makhan can ever forgive those people just at the age of 6? Her parents were shot dead by Cookie Gill and 2 others. Now ask this is very important. Many people say how convenient of you, easier said than done. But here is a girl whose parents were shot dead by these persons. Okay, fast forward this story. Avantika Makhan grows up telling herself, when I grow up, I'm going to personally kill these people who have killed my parents, a 6-year-old girl. Here is Cookie Gill, among other things, let the story in short, he moves out to States. There, on Indian government's request, he was held. He spent approximately 14 years there in jail, but the things couldn't be proven. Eventually, voluntarily, Cookie Gill comes back to India. He's sent in jail again here to face that trial, all those things against him. Now there comes a point that this guy has suffered enough. Cookie Gill has suffered enough. He was in jail for so many years in States. He has been in jail for so many years in India. So this guy should be released. Here comes Avantika Makhan. She says, no, I will protest. I want justice. This guy cannot be released. This guy has shot dead my parents. No, this person should not be released. Eventually, one fine day from Delhi, Avantika Makhan comes to Ludhiana. And a person introduces her, why don't you meet Cookie Gill? You should meet him. He says, that's not possible. This guy has shot dead my parents. Throughout my life, she actually wanted to kill this guy. She's come to terms, I won't kill this guy, but she's fighting for justice. How can I meet this person? So eventually she agrees. Avantika Makhan meets Cookie Gill, listens to his side of the story, and they become friends. And Avantika Makhan plays a very important role in getting Cookie Gill released. And today, when you talk to Avantika Makhan, she says, I feel liberated. Yes, throughout my life, she was thinking that, yes, I have to take the revenge from Cookie Gill. So this is one of many examples of forgiveness that I can give to you. There are many other examples I can quote, but in the interest of time, I'll just quote this example.
It's beautiful, and it's very hard to do. It takes a lot of it takes a lot for a person, and in terms of self-reflection and releasing a lot of that stuff. Because it is life-changing what happened to her. But, and that's essentially where we'd all like to get to, right? I think the ultimate goal is to get to a point where we're able to forgive, because really it does liberate us. And in that exchange is that we also want to be forgiven. And we want to even be forgiven for things that we don't realize. And there's also the forgiveness of things that perhaps that have happened ancestrally, right? The whole prayer, the Ho'oponopono that we say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. If you look at that story, Dr. Hewlin, he believed in the fact that if I'm witnessing this right now, then this has something to do with me. Yes, as Dr. Hewlin, the story goes, if you're not aware of it, is that, this was incarcerated individuals who've committed horrific crimes, whether, all the ones that you would go to prison for, but they had, mental health issues, where then they were sent to a department within the hospital, and this was in Hawaii, and this was a place where all these individuals were. So they would have a high rotation of people who would be on duty to be able to look after these individuals on a psychiatric level. And they have committed crimes, they've been convicted, charged, and now they're serving their time, but in the hospital. So Dr. Hewlin goes for the position, and then he says to the hospital, my method is different than others, and they say, you know, we're desperate, we need someone who's going to be in charge of this department. He says, okay. So what he would do is he wouldn't actually meet up with the incarcerated individuals who were in the hospital. What he would do is he would look at their files and he would say the 4 sentence prayer. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. The reason he did that is because he understood on a karmic level that if he is in contact with this individual, if he's seeing this, right, law of correspondence, so maybe it's not this lifetime, maybe it's a previous lifetime, therefore, he has something to do with it. Yes, as Dr. Hewlin, not directly, but indirectly, perhaps through his lineage, perhaps through past lives, right? Like, look at our human history. Like, you don't know what you were doing if you believe in the concept, but, you know, there are these, you're seeing these miracles happen, right? This can't just be out of nothing. It can't be a fiction. It can't be just a Bollywood film, right? This is some real stuff that if you start using the stuff in your life, you're going to hit a new timeline. A new timeline is a new destiny. And so Dr. Hewlin keeps saying it because he's like, he takes the responsibility. When he says, I'm sorry, he didn't commit the crime. He says, I'm sorry, because he's like, there's something in the lineage, so I'm sorry for it. And then the forgiveness, and then the thank you, because if you ask, it shall be received. And then, if someone asks you for forgiveness, you got to forgive them too, right? And then the whole sum it up with love, and then eventually everyone gets better. So he's not sitting there going through therapy session and saying, tell me how you feel today, tell me about your thoughts, emotions. We're not talking about someone using their mental capacity, about telling how they feel. Here's an exercise, go do your exercise. Have you learned it? Have you practiced it? What I'm talking about today is not what your brain thinks is right, what's logical. When we're talking about forgiveness, and we're talking about shifting the karma that is there. If you don't want to use the word karma, okay, the energy that it's there, you're feeling it, you're experiencing it. If we're talking about being able to transmute it, right? Because you can't delete it, you can't take it away. It can't. You have to transmute it. So it comes with some of these really things that you don't think have an impact because you think, oh, I touch, I feel. We're very logical. No, like the prayer alone, through the practice, it helped everybody overcome their challenges, heal, like from their, the issues that they were in for, that they were signed up for because they had severe mental health cases, and then to the point where everybody was released and the department closed down. And if that's not a story in miracles, but see, we call things we don't understand miracles, but it's showing you a clear path of what is absolutely possible. And so I'll give you a great story. I asked you a question. I said, do you believe that we all come from the same place, such as God, the creator? I mean, this was all created. This isn't not a random accident. Well, I don't believe so because I believe everything is for me, not to me. And so because everything comes from God, and if God is love and is the epitome of love, and we're created in the image of love, and everything is a blessing, then the challenges I face, because whether it's an event or a circumstance or whatever, that's usually it's usually certain people I would attribute it to. So if I experience a challenge with some person, and it's a very difficult one, and perhaps it's not a momentary one, perhaps it's something for years, because I also believe, now we go back to the foundational beliefs, because we are just an accumulation of our belief systems. Like, that's what's driving us. That's how we react in the world. So it's really good to have good belief systems that nourish us as opposed to subtract from us. So because I believe that we all come from the same place, and we come from God, and God is love, and therefore we are all love, then the person who I have this very challenging situation with that I feel like I need to forgive, well, guess what? If they come from God and we come from the same place. And so therefore if God, everything God does is in love, because it is for me, therefore it is to support me, it's therefore to expand my consciousness, therefore it's supposed to make me a better person, a kinder person, a more compassionate person, a more knowing person. If it's all those things, then that individual who I have an issue, that I'm having this physical problem with, it feels so terrible, then if I were to believe that they're also from the same place, then they're doing it out of love. Perhaps on a soul contract, they decided to come here on this earth, and I agreed to it because otherwise it wouldn't be happening, because everything is a level of consent that goes into place, maybe not on a personality level, but on a soul level. And because they are teaching me this thing, therefore, and they are love, and God can do no harm. I don't believe God can do any harm. I don't believe God is vindictive or wrathful. That's not my belief system at all. That is not at all my belief system. So therefore, I look at it as, then that person who I'm having such a hard time with must love me so much on a soul level. They're my best friend, because look at what they're doing for me in this lifetime with our two personalities that's helping me grow. The individual that perhaps, or the circumstances that perhaps pushed you out of your, that radio show that you had created, on a soul level, they were your best friend. Because look at what you were able to create in the meantime. Yes, you had the free will to choose one destiny, retribution, right? Injustice, let me show you. Or you had the free will and the guidance from above to choose the other one, which that person, if that person or that situation did not push you out of that time zone, would you be where you are today?
Not at all.
Not at all. Would you be half the character you are today?
Maybe not.
Would you have the great souls around you, the capacity of the team, how much it's been built today? Because comfort means small.
Yeah, I already said it. I mean, I think that rewrote my destiny. Please.
It rewrote your destiny. So if I believe that, then that person is my best friend on a soul level. They must love me so much to do what they have done for me to learn that. Because guess what? On a personality level, we don't like to do hard things. Like on a personality level, it's uncomfortable. I just want to enjoy my life. I just want to get things the way I want it, how I want it, when I want it. Until circumstances push me in a direction that feels so uncomfortable, that challenges me to my core, that challenges me. I say I'm a nice person, well, I don't feel so nice. I want to say the worst things, and I want to feel the worst things, and I want to scream. And it pushes me to that. It pushes me to the core of me. But guess what? That is where the shift happens. That is where the transformation happens, right? It's to the core of you, right? You're a caterpillar, and then you go into your cocoon and you become a butterfly. Like, that is where the transformation doesn't happen if it doesn't hit you to the core of you. When you don't feel it in your gut, you know, when you feel it in your gut, you're like, oh, you get punched and you feel it, or in your heart, or maybe your throat because you can't say it, or maybe in your mind because it just doesn't make sense. But guess what? It's building you. And because of that, you understand these things because you've faced it, you experienced it, and then you realize what seemed like such a massive challenge at one point is not so big after all, because now you're on the other side. The other side is growth. The other side is the characteristics that you want, which is strength, which is the capacity, which is compassion, which is the know-how on how to navigate, right? That is on the other side of the challenge. So that person did you the biggest favor, and I'll give you a great example because you said the war. So, the duration of my childhood, I was in the Gulf War. And so like from age of 6, 7, 8, during those timelines, I recall going into bomb shelters, like the fear of the war that was ensued, and that changed the trajectory of my life because my parents decided to come to Canada. And so therefore, it changed everything in terms of everything else that happened. So, and it's really interesting because if it wasn't for that war and, seeing the capacity of what could happen to lives, and I remember evacuation out of Tehran, and I remember all these things. And seeing all the other families and, just all of that stuff, and seeing what a bomb shelter looks like, and a mattress and a kettle run, all these things these are very formative years. And that was what I realized. I said, okay, if you have individuals who make decisions that take nations into war, then Ramona, you need to get involved in politics. That was really the deep experience to the core that made me want to do that. Okay. This is very important because Then that's something I put aside, and I said, okay, well, why did you want to do that? I said, because I want to help people. So now, I found something that I do that really helps people on a core level. But that's just the premise of the story. Now, the real story is I got a back problem, and this happened spontaneously, and it lasted for about 3 weeks, where at the point I was limping, if you recall. Like, there was 3 weeks where I just couldn't get out of bed, and then afterwards I limped, and I went to osteopath and this and chiropractor. I did all the modalities, and I was okay. And then it came back again. And I said, okay, it came back again. Again, I couldn't relate it to a physical activity that I had done to start it, and the pain got severe. So then I found someone to help me with this. And what I found was to go do a session with someone where they would ask me certain questions. I would say, like they would say, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say elephant, right? Big. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say home, house, right? Just things like that. So through the associations of first thing that comes to your mind, right? Then they said, okay, you breathe in, right? And then you're relaxed. Like, you relax yourself so you can really go in. Because remember, your job here is to just go in, figure stuff out. And then, it'll really show what you're doing out here and what out here is doing for you. So you relax, and I'm like, okay. So she goes, okay, your pain, right? And then so she goes, give me the measurement of your pain from 1 to 10. And I said, right now, it's like a good 9. It doesn't feel so good. She says, okay. And then she goes through the whole association of, okay, give me the first things, right? And then she goes, is your pain associated to an event or person? And then I said, person. I was shocked. I said, person. She goes, okay, you don't have to tell me who. She goes, then she kind of goes through it. And then it came to me, and I said, oh my goodness. I was able to connect my pain to a person, and I was able to connect it to the event, childhood. And then I'm someone who practices releasing stuff. So then the more you release, the more you're able to go to the other stuff, right? Like there's layers, right? There's layers. The more you clean, there's another layer, and there's another layer, there's another layer. I was able to go to that, and I was just blown away because the answers were just coming out. Because I wasn't using the interference of my logic. I wasn't using my mind. I was tapping into my body, and my mind was able to use the words, but without the interference. Listen to this. Then we go, and then of course, the understanding, we all come from the same place. It's done for love. I am able to heal and forgive things I didn't even know I was upset about. Like, here I am, and then what's the emotion? Sad. And I didn't even know. I'm like, I'm sad about that? Like, I'm telling you, there's so many things that are going on within us that we're not even aware of. It's just, I was pushed to do this because the pain was manifesting. And I had to say, well, I know it's not an activity I'm doing. I've done everything else. If it's come back, then it's something, right? So then we get to the root cause. We get to the emotions that are tied to it, the event, the individual, integrate it to how everything's happening for me. So for my goodness, when I integrate that everything is happening for my good, then what's your pain level? Because then it was very important. She goes, what's the pain, right? And then if your pain is at usually if your pain is, let's just say at a 1 to 10, let's say your pain is 5, then it says, well, how much does it affect you emotionally? Usually the emotion is because you think about, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. So I'm more upset. My degree of upset is higher than the actual pain because I'm thinking about all the things I can't do or all the things I gotta, so that's an interesting point when you realize how things get increased with just emotion when you think about it versus what you're actually experiencing. So anyways, so we go through, how you create peace with it, you forgive. Then she goes to me, what is your pain at 1 to 10? And then from a 9, it went down to a 6. She goes, okay, let's go back again. We go back again. Turns out it's a different event. Turns out it's something else. Another timeline, another situation. You kind of bring that all in, you put it into perspective. Because what it is you want to take those puzzle pieces, you want to bring it into perspective, and you're like, oh, I learned that. Yeah, that was put yourself in the person's shoes. They didn't know better. I didn't know better. Yeah, forgive it, gone. What's your pain level? 4. Let's go again. So now here's the interesting thing. Turns out, she said something so profound to me because she asked me about, my childhood, this, that. She goes, so when you were 8 years old and you were in a bomb shelter on the war, she goes, I was 18 and in my country, I was serving for the Gulf War. So she's from a different country. And then she goes, and I said, wow. So I was a child, and that was pretty traumatic to see bomb shelters and all those things. It kind of leaves an impression on you that you can't forget. So here it is that, she said, you were 8 years old going through the war as being in a war, and I was in the other country, 10 years older than you, serving in the military. I said, well, how did you like the military? She goes, I did not like it. And she was telling me about this stuff. But yet here she is, full circle, like 30 plus years later, he giving me a healing. So it was almost like you felt like you're on the receiving end as a child, like in a war, like what is this? And she's, in a country that was actively pursuing the war as well. And she was part of that. And so here we are coming full circle. So this is the beauty of life. When you decide that everything is for the good. We're all come from the same place. Innately, we all want good. We want good for ourselves, we want good for our families, we want good for our loved ones, and for that reason, and there's things that we've done that we just wasn't part of our consciousness, wasn't part of our awareness, and even so if it was, and from my experience, what I'm seeing is all the soul contracts. There's, like, I've had somebody who came and in a hypnosis, she realized in a previous life, her brother murdered her. In this life, it was a stranger. In this life, their brother and sister. Everything is always teaching you how to overcome it. Everything is an experience. So does that mean you shouldn't take anything seriously? No, take the experience, but extract, that's the lesson. What am I supposed to learn? And take that as the imprint. Don't take the pain. The pain just gave you the ability, like the push to overcome something or to learn something. I guess in that sense, no pain, no gain, right? Like the pain was there for you to become more aware of yourself, aware of the emotions you feel, aware of how do you react. Do you overly react or do you underly react? Do you not say anything when you should say something? And when you say it, how do you say it? Right? Like these are all like, I know it sounds like a lot of things and maybe it's like, oh, it's so much work. Yeah, but you're here to do the work. If you're alive, you're here to do the work for yourself. You are. This is your opportunity. Like, there's no other reason why we're here. We're here to experience. We're here to do the work. And so now, if we can talk about how do you forgive, that's work. And so what is your commitment to the work? Because you can't say, I want forgiveness, but I'm not committed to learn how to forgive. Because, like, look, the forgiveness that I had to experience was manifesting. The pain of my back was not because I did a move that was wrong for me. Even if it was manifested because there was something unresolved that was not in my conscious mind. Because it was like when I was a child. How would I even remember that? But it took me right to it. Took me right to the pain point. Because what did I do? I relaxed. I went in. I didn't go to like the doctor. What do you think is my pain? Oh, Mom, what's my pain? Like, I wasn't asking other people. I was asking myself. And so there's a lot of this work that when you do, you can actually release a lot. And through that comes a lot of forgiveness.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your amazing story. To sum up, all I can say is I think today we're talking about forgiveness. It can start with very little things. You said that we're talking about mainly the human beings or the persons here, but I'll wrap up here today's show. Even it starts like if there was something in my washroom while I'm taking a shower, if there was some creature. So as much as I know this creature or this insect could harm me, but then I have two options. One is that yes, should I basically take away this creature's life, or I can try and take this creature away so that it doesn't harm me and I'm okay. So I think this is what we have to do in our lives as well. So forgiveness is not just for all human beings, it's for every single species. So if you're thinking about forgiveness, think about every species around us And as you were mentioning earlier, that we're all from the same place. Yes, not just human beings. All these species are from the same place. They all have this central nervous system. They all deserve our love, compassion, and certainly forgiveness as well. And when we're talking about forgiveness, I'll wrap up on this note. It certainly does not mean we're condoning that, or we're trying to encourage anybody, or we are okay with what someone has done. We have our own boundaries, but if someone has violated that boundary, we say this, okay, fine, I'm not okay with this one, but that at the end of the day, we're still forgiving them for our own mental peace, our own liberation. That's what we are doing. And finally, again, as I mentioned already, forgiveness is choice. It's okay if someone does something wrong to us. We will have feelings. We could get overwhelmed with all those feelings, but it's okay to have those feelings. But more importantly, when I say the choice, how do we react to all those feelings? So that is the choice that we got to make when we are forgiving others, and most importantly, forgiving ourselves. Because I'll wrap up on this note, forgiveness is very important for our emotional well-being, our physical well-being, our mental well-being, and certainly for our spiritual well-being as well. Ramona ji.
Well, I want to take what you said and move it a step forward, because you always want to level up, right? You always want to, was that what you do in sports? You want to level up.
Yes.
You want to do that with your game. You want to do it with your skills. You want to do that with how you show up. If you're happy, you want to be happier, right?
Yes.
If you're a good person, you want to be even better, right?
Yes.
So let's level this up. Aside from forgiving somebody because it releases the bondage on you, because I've had cases where people have passed away and they're still holding on. I'm like, that person's gone, but you're here suffering still. So after you realize what this individual on a soul level has done for you, which is something phenomenally amazing, because what you've learned about yourself and what you've been able to overcome and your level of compassion, all those things. Now, can you say thank you? Don't just forgive them for yourself. Now say thank you for what you've given me. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for things that I didn't know I could do or I could learn as the process, as because of this situation. So where's the thank you? And then that's where gratefulness comes in. And if you can wrap that up with thank you as being grateful for, like, wow, look at that. Isn't that why we watch movies? We watch movies to see the journey of the hero. The hero who has a challenge, right? They have a sensei, a supporting, mentor that comes in. The hero doesn't believe they can do something. The challenging is great. The mentor helps them overcome. And when they overcome the challenge, they are faster, they're smarter, I don't know, sometimes even more handsome, whatever the case is for the hero. And then that's why we watch movies. But that's what's happening with us. That challenge, get the mentor. Yeah, get the help. Like, no one's saying do anything alone. But then, when we experience that victory on the other side, and the victory is also the fact that, hey, I have some experience that I could share. That's victory, right? Because you have substance. It's substance, it's no longer like, unknown. It's the known. And then you can say thank you for that. And then you thank the person, thank the situation, thank the event, thank God for creating it. Because if that thing didn't happen, you would be like what? Subtraction of whatever you are today.
Yeah, as you said, take it one step further. You're right, and this is what I said earlier as well. It's not just thanking. I think it's eventually loving them. We have to send them more love. And we also, if at all, we ask any justice from God. So we'd always say God should also send them more love. So as much as, and very importantly, there is a difference between forgiving and reconciliation. Very, very important distinction that we have to make. But okay, let me come to your point. So say, for instance, I'll give you a very quick example, and I've done this very much practically. I've met those people who I really know they've done a lot of wrong things against me, and I could have done a lot of wrong things unintentionally or maybe unknowingly against people. I could have done that. Yeah, I try not to hurt anyone from many, many years, but maybe when I was young, intentionally and unintentionally, I could have done a lot of wrong things. But today, first of all, as you just mentioned, for me, nobody can do anything wrong against me. Yeah, it could be their intention, they did something, but God has given me everything. Everything is working fine. as much as I've had my own challenges in business challenges, personal relationship challenges, I've lost my father. That's all. But at the end of the day, God has given me so much. I have to practice gratitude. I've been blessed with so many good things. And I have practiced this thing that I clearly know this person is doing something almost on daily basis, something wrong, and the person walks inside a room and I'm there. And yes, I go, I meet him, yeah, I hug him.
They're the blessing that just keeps giving to everyone.
Yeah, because I think that's the real test about what I'm talking. I can talk a million things on Food for Thought. I can talk a million things on, on my radio. Just today, as I was showing you off the air, I mean, I'll also name this guy. This guy's name is Jaswinder Bardal. You know, he's been with us for many years. He's following our radio or TV for many years. But yeah, he also sent me this message. This is what you talk on the radio. So it's very important for us to practice that as well. That yes, if anybody, you could think I'm jealous of this person, or I'm resentful, I'm vindictive, but forgiveness, it goes hand in hand with love and compassion. So as long as we can forgive ourselves, as long as we can, send love for anyone even who's done wrong to us, yes, we are heading towards the right path. And I've said this on record previously, I'll say that again. Some people say, if someone does anything against you or your family, something very drastic, would you be able to forgive them? 100%. I'm in that position. Not only just forgive them, as Ramona said, say thanks. Actually, I'm able to love them. And I'll give you this example. Avantika, as already mentioned, Avantika Markin, someone who killed her parents. It was still love. It is definitely love that she became friends with the very same person, Cookie Gill, who killed her parents, and she grew up all her life imagining that how she's going to kill this person, or actually there were more than one by herself. So imagine the transformation, imagine the liberation. So she's now loving that person. That person is also sending love. And in that process, they're healing the past, animosities between many people. This is the healing process. Mm-hmm. And imagine what they are. The reason why our world goes around, when we say the most powerful thing in this world is love, but how do we practice love? It's through forgiveness, it's through compassion, it's through healing ourselves and others. Ramona ji, I think at this point we ran out of time, and you go ahead and lead the Ho'oponopo prayer.
The Ho'oponopo prayer is the 4 sentences that shift everything, and the more you say it, the more you feel it. So it's I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you for everything, and I love you.
Until next time, take care and be well.
Take care, be well. Thank you. God bless.